Hi, and welcome back to A&Q. If this is your first time watching, we're keeping space here for asking questions, all kinds of questions. We value thoughtful conversation about life and faith, and so we encourage you to keep asking questions whether they seem big or small. So today you asked, does God care if I go to church? Now, the short answer is a resounding yes. God does care if we go to church, but maybe not for the reasons you think. Going to church was never intended to be a box to check or a boring rule God wants us to follow. God is not keeping track of our attendance and how often we show up in the church building down the street. In fact, the church is more than the actual building. When we're talking about going to church, we're talking about gathering with other followers of Jesus at a certain time and in a certain place for worship and for encouragement. It's setting aside time for God together, worshiping Him, hearing from the Bible, praying, and learning how our faith intertwines in our daily lives. Church is intended to be a place of people looking out for one another, carrying each other's burdens, encouraging each other in our faith, creating perseverance even when things get heavy. There are verses in the Bible that sum this up perfectly. The one that comes to mind is Hebrews 10, verse 24 and 25. And let us consider how we may spur one another towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Now, if that is what it means to go to church, then I'm in. I want that kind of community. What about you? Now, I realize that for some people, going to church didn't feel like that. Maybe growing up, you felt forced to go to church. Every Sunday without fail, your parents or grandparents or a spouse made you go. You didn't even have a choice in the matter. Or maybe your family only went on Easter and Christmas, but it felt mandatory. Listen, God's hope is that you will go to church because you want to go to church. God knows that life can be complicated. He knows that we struggle with hurt and pain. And while there's a day coming when that will all be taken away, right now we need each other to keep our heads held high and our hearts hopeful. God doesn't want us to do life alone. Even Jesus wasn't an isolated individual. Jesus leaned on his friends and followers. He shared meals with them, including his very last meal. He asked for their prayers in the garden before he was betrayed, and he went and found them after he was raised to let them know that everything would be okay and that he would be back. Now, if the eternal Son of God had relationships that he leaned on, how much more do we need them? I believe God has good things for you within the local church. Encouraging words, people to love and be loved by, a safe place to ask your questions and grow in your own relationship with Him. It's not about being guilted or forced into attended. So why does God care about us going to church? Because He wants these good things for us, and He knows that the local church is a way for us to be poured into. Now, if you haven't found a local church yet, I hope you will, and I encourage you to pray about it, for God to bring the right church community across your path. And speaking of answering questions and doing life together in community, we're going to keep doing that through this video series. So let us know what you want to talk about next. Thanks for being here. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you soon.